Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. It's Tuesday, October 15th, following the United States Disc Golf Championship and the Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship. I'm Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. Josh, we got the USDGC disc on the wall.
Very nice.
Last year's 25th anniversary disc.
Yep.
Pretty nice, pretty nice. Always a tremendous event. We got the world's best players head-to-head in both divisions going into the final round with a chance for anybody to win. And you know what? That hasn't happened all that often.
Yep.
You think about how it's kind of surprising that it hasn't happened more. Mm-hmm. This is really the first time since Texas State's that we've seen Gannon Buhr and Anthony Barella go head-to-head. Obviously, Ricky's been at the top battling with Gannon much of the season. Back at Texas State, Gannon was 6 shots back of the lead. So even though it ultimately became close, this is just a different ballgame. Right. AB coming into the final round with a one-stroke lead. Meanwhile, in FPO, Kristin, 2-shot lead over Evelina. Owen Scoggins right there. This had all the makings for an absolute classic on Sunday. Josh, I don't know if it quite got there as a classic.
I don't know if it did either. Listen, it was still compelling. It was still exciting, all things considered, and it was good to watch. But I agree. I don't think that what stands out to me here is that it's the world number ones, Gannon, to put a capstone on what is a truly incredible season, and we'll get to more of that in a minute. And then the world number one in FPO, Kristin, securing another win to kind of establish and doing it in a fashion that reminds us that she still is number one in the world. And
100%. Kristin looked back, and we'll get to that more later. And Gannon showed us once again why we're calling him the Iceman.
Yep.
He steps up in the big spots, and other guys don't. And it's been true for much of his young career. And, some people just have that ability innately to be able to remain clutch despite the pressure rising. And it's a hard skill. I think many people work on it their whole careers and never figure it out in these kinds of sports, any kind of sports. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many great players throughout the years who shrink in the big spots. And it's not like these professional athletes who spend lots of money on psychologists and all, various techniques to try to get over it. They don't always get over it.
Yep.
And, I'm not saying this is the final form of somebody like Anthony Barella, who's clearly taken a massive step forward in his game this year. But, I think the majors offer a different level of pressure, and Gannon shows up. And Gannon wasn't perfect. He got some lucky breaks. He also managed to clutch up and hit some key shots when he really, really needed them. And, honestly, he didn't have to work that hard down the final 6 holes of this tournament. So it was a complete performance from Gannon once again.
Drew Gibson unleashed a monster when he beat him in a playoff at LVC, and Gannon decided he was never going to let that happen to him again. And it's proven successful. But you're spot on in terms of the consistency and like the cool way that Gannon plays this sport. And I think what's so noteworthy is, like, if you look at the back 5 holes, Gannon had an opportunity to shoot a course record, no doubt about it. He could have, if he wanted to. He shot 8 down, and he intentionally did not play the last 5 holes for birdie. And that is an understanding of where you're at in the tournament. He checked scores and knew what he needed to do, and knew that it really wasn't much. I know, crazy, right? Like, imagine like being able to check scores so that you know that on hole 16, a hole that, yes, is fairly routine, but you can drift into the hazard, it allows you to just play a little soft par shot into circle 2 and then take a stab at it. Like, Gannon plays some of the best golf that we may have ever seen in MPO.
I largely agree with your assessment here, but he ran it on 17, Josh.
That one was great.
That was a pretty... I mean, we have seen crazy stuff happen on that hole. It is not so long ago that Calvin, charging through the rain, trying to catch Chris Dickerson, much like he charged this weekend as he set a new modern course record in the final day, hit the band, had the disc stand up and roll out of bounds on 17.
No, you're right.
To end his chances of catching Chris. And it was a pretty ballsy shot by Gannon. I don't really think it was justified based on the scores, but as Gannon said, and I think was clear from the fact that he was running it, he wanted to have additional cushion on 18. He's assuming that Barella, who's at the edge of the circle, is going to make his putt.
Right.
But that miss from AB was emblematic of the round.
Yep.
There were only a couple of missed putts. It was that one, and which was obviously critical for him to have a chance at the end. But I also think back to hole 2, when he had a little bunny, and Gannon was outside the circle, and Gannon missed his, and then AB just kind of like softballs it a little bit, and this is his chance to take a stroke early and get up by 2. He doesn't convert, and then starts to slowly slip away. Misses the Mando on 7. The total, I mean, I think maybe the tournament was decided when he shanked it into the hedge on 11, and just kind of like a shocking misfire at this level. Anytime, but particularly in this moment. 2-shot swing there, and that was kind of curtains.
I think you're spot on about hole 2 there with the missed really short circle 1 putt.
Yeah, you just have to make that.
And here's what's crazy to me. Right after hole 3, he makes a big circle 2 putt.
Right.
And massive circle 2 putt. And the commentators,
it was almost 60-footer.
Yeah. Commentators are like, "Oh yeah, like picking right up where he left off." And I'm like, "No, they're like, you are seeing cracks in the AB armor, right?" And that it was never the fact that he can't hit can't hit a circle 2 putt. It's the fact that when there are the opportunities given to him to make a difference in the round, that's when you see him crack under pressure. And the context matters so much about when he was making and missing putts. And
it does. In theory, the timing doesn't matter, but it does matter.
But it does. It does. Yes. Momentum.
Like at the end of the round, it doesn't necessarily matter, but like
how
pace,
it affects the way you play. Yeah.
100%.
Yes. And that's exactly right. Like it felt like Anthony Barella hit circle 2 putts when it didn't feel like the pressure was nearly the same level or of importance as it was when he was missing his circle 1 putts. And that is just, you want to talk about momentum breaks on a round. Missing circle 1 putts when you could gain strokes on your opponent. Like there it is. That's it. It's interesting because that's when he missed both of them. Both that and on hole 17, it was when he had an opportunity to gain a stroke on Gannon,
yes,
not when he was trying to match Gannon and keep up.
I think that psychology matters a lot.
I think so too. I think circle 1 opportunities rather than circle 1 like must make feels are ones that are getting in his head. So Charlie, I have go ahead.
Must credit him. He did make putts on 10 and 12 to pick up strokes.
Yeah. Okay.
And then he did pick up a bunch of strokes down the stretch, but it was too late.
Right. Well, but the problem with 10 and 12 is that it almost, I mean, by that point he'd gotten 2 bogeys before hole 10, and had dropped another 2 strokes to Gannon. So by that point, he has dropped 4 strokes to Gannon by hole 10, picks 1 up, then drops another 2 on 11, and then picks 1 back up. So I hear you, but it felt different at that point.
I mean, ultimately, the difference in this round is that Gannon bogeyed once and AB bogeyed 4 times. There's just Gannon was avoiding trouble way more. 5 penalty strokes for AB, just 1 for Gannon. And Gannon wasn't perfect. He missed putts. He, didn't always dial it in. This was not like a legendary round from Gannon Buhr, but it was great golf. And he applied plenty of pressure by going 4 down through the first 5 holes. And I talked about this in the Rapid Reacts that we did for subscribers every day this week. I said after round 3 that coming out and shooting good in the first 5 holes, which proved to be pretty hard, was going to be critical for whoever wanted to come out and win this tournament. And that's exactly what happened.
Yep. Spot
Ricky,
on.
2 bogeys. AB misses a putt on 2, and then is not in position on 4 and 5. So AB goes 2 down through the first 5. Ricky goes 1 over. Shout out to Calvin Heimberg, who did go 4 under, but he was already too far back.
Right.
So Gannon goes 4 under in the first 5, and already at that point, it's like he's retaken the lead. He has the momentum. He follows it up by getting the 2-shot swing on 7, getting the 2-shot swing on 11, and making the most of his opportunities when Anthony made misfires, and AB couldn't do the same thing in reverse.
Yep. Taking in and talking about those top 4 guys there. I have a couple questions I want to ask you, Charlie, because those are the players. We didn't talk about AB at all. And that's probably
in our preview,
in our preview, we didn't talk about AB, and that's probably a bit of an oversight. But let's be real, Calvin.
What was he doing before this weekend? Right?
Nothing special.
I will say, we probably should have at least considered the possibility of him having a great weekend, because we know that he's played well here in the past. He had the lead after round 1 like 5 years ago when he was like a child still.
It's also very different.
But Josh, let me give you his results.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Going back, so he won Des Moines, right?
Yes. Yep.
7th, 36th, 50th, 43rd, 13th at Worlds, 21st, 67th at GMC, 15th at MVP. There's a reason we didn't talk about him.
You're right.
It's because he hadn't shown us any form for months.
The one caveat I'll make, and the reason why I think we had the bit of an oversight to not talk about him, is that this course doesn't look anything like the courses we played over the past month and a half.
Very, very fair.
Right. It looks a lot more like the courses that Anthony Barela won on earlier this season than
and
it looks
has cooked on historically.
Exactly.
Here, European Open.
Yep. As opposed to what we've seen the past month and a half. So that's where I think the oversight probably was, that we should have at least mentioned his name. But Rick and Calvin were obvious discussion points. Gannon, obvious discussion point. We talked about them. I want you to imagine, Charlie, that on Wednesday, okay? We're going back in time. Wednesday.
Day before the tournament.
Yes. A time-traveling Charlie walks up to AB, Calvin, and Rick and hands them a slip of paper that only shows their finishing place. Doesn't show strokes, doesn't show anything about what happened at the tournament. It just says, you will finish 2nd at USDGC for Calvin, so on and so forth. Which of these 3 players is most disappointed by that finish? Right, because if you take the context of like AB having the lead, then sure, it's easy to say, yeah, AB's the one who's going to be most disappointed. But when you think about just the finish in the career context, who do you think this hurts most for?
That's a really good question. I think I'd probably say Calvin.
I think you're probably right.
Just because he's going to pick up his piece of paper. It's going to say, you will finish 2nd. And he's going to go, again.
Yeah.
I think Rick 4th, it's like, again, trying to ignore the context of how it actually played out.
Right.
Ricky's already a Hall of Fame lock. I mean, Calvin probably is too at this point, but Rick's won majors. I know It's been a drought, but a drought is different than never having won. And for Calvin to come close again, and he's been close so many times. I mean, how many second place finishes does he? I'm going to pull it up. How many second place finishes at majors does Calvin have? I'm looking it up. Here we go. Okay. 2nd at USDGC 2020. Surprisingly, this is only the 2nd time.
Well,
But he has a lot of top 5s.
I was about to say top 5. Do top 5 probably, because remember when he had the lead at European Open when he had the lead at European Open going in when Anthony Barela Tin Cup, but he ended up finishing like 4th or something.
This is his 9th top 5 finish at a major. and his 4th podium.
See, that's
so it's got to be painful because he's like obviously like watching him play on Sunday and the kind of round that he put down, he's capable of.
1,000%.
Somebody posted that in the Jomez like practice round or some Jomez clip.
Sure.
That he said he needed to putt 91% C1X to win this weekend. Like one of them asked him like, what's it going to take to win this tournament?
What did he putt?
He said, I need to putt 91% C1X. He putted 87% C1X, and it's obviously like you can't exactly say, but like if he putts 91% and picks up 2 putts, literally, he's tied for the lead. Now, there's all the caveats of how it would have been different, but he was in the conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Second question.
He putted great from circle 2, and just not quite enough early in the tournament.
Yeah. I mean, when we did our rapid reaction round 3, we said Rick was last in on the fork line. Like Rick was the last chance. Rick still could win it, but then that was it. And we didn't think Calvin had a shot. And if you consider how Gannon could have played those back 5, man, like I guess Calvin could have, but if
he could have, if he didn't blow the upshot on the triple Mando hole, he was in perfect position to birdie.
Sure.
He ended up bogeying. I mean, he's at 34.
So give him 34, right? But I
still think Gannon wins.
I put so much money on Gannon's capacity to birdie one more hole.
Josh mortgages it all.
Oh, that's right.
Puts it all on black.
Okay, so let me ask you one follow-up question here. Taking those same 3 players, whose performance now you can take into account everything that happened. Whose performance concerns you most, and do you think could be the most informative about future major potential from these 3 players?
I think it's clearly Ricky. Ricky put himself in a position to shoot another great round and come out and maybe take this tournament, and just way too many mistakes in the front part of the course. And it feels very reminiscent to me of the couple years ago when he did the same thing. It happened in round 3 rather than in round 4. Yeah. But I just like, I feel like I'm watching the same story over and over again with Rick. Like AB is going to have his chances.
Sure.
And it's not like he hasn't stared down pressure and won. It's different to do it at a major, no doubt.
Yep.
But I think he's gonna be a multi-time major winner by the end of his career. He's just got too much talent not to do that. And Calvin, I mean, like it just has to be a little better earlier in the tournament. I don't really feel like I'm like concerned.
Sure.
I see what's possible, and I wonder why can't he tap into that same energy and ability earlier in the tournament. I don't have an answer for. I feel like it's certainly easier to execute when you're like, well, I have nothing to lose. I'm already so far back, and we've seen this from him a couple times now at USDGC
and other majors, right? He's done this multiple times.
It's true,
and it's interesting because of all those major finishes, the European Open last year is the only time Calvin has led going into the final round of a major. And so it's not even like,
and then he laid an egg.
And then he laid an egg. Like we thought that was the turning point, right? That was it. That's where it was going to change because he'd never had the lead, and that was the difference. But then just played so poorly at the European Open, and so. But I agree. I think Rick's is. And it's it's the worst part, and I know what side of the bet I am on, but like Rick shoots just like a barn burner at European Open, but Gannon is better, and it would be one thing if like he just keeps getting beat just barely because Gannon is just a tiny bit better, But it feels like a lot of times this is what's happened with Rick, especially at USDGC.
Yeah, I mean, Ricky has proven. I mean, Ricky's season, by like all measures, is really good. He just happened to be blocked in a lot of ways this year from being the player of the year by someone who just straight up outplayed him a little bit.
Yep.
You can't knock Ricky for the season that he's had. I mean, it's been tremendous. For long stretches, he was stunningly good this year. And so where does he end up at? He gets 3 wins on the year. He podiums 60% of the time. He never misses cash. That stretch in June over in Europe, he was phenomenal, right? He wins the Preserve, and then he goes Krokl first, European Open second, only to a magnificent Gannon Buhr. Then he wins the European Disc Golf Festival, and then maybe a little bit of a soft spot there through Idlewild and Worlds, but then he's back on the podium 3 straight tournaments, shooting around 1060 golf, and it just wasn't quite enough.
Yeah,
I mean, he's playing awesome. It's just like we've got a new superstar. Yeah. We've got a new superstar, and let's talk about his season.
Okay,
give us the stats on Gannon's season 2024, because it's been a monster.
It's been a monster. All right, Gannon 2024. He has 23 events. In those 23 events, he's got 8 wins. He won 2 of the 4 majors. He has an average finish of 4.35. His worst finish was only 13th, and he won all but 2. I guess if you include Worlds and say 4 or more round events, he won all but 3 4 or more round events, and those were the majors. Sorry, that was Champions Cup, Worlds, MVP.
That he did not win.
But he won
all the other Elite Pluses and the majors.
Correct.
It's epic.
It is.
It's epic. It's now tied for the second most wins on tour all time in a season with Macbeth. Macbeth won 8 events in 2015, which is the best season of all time, and it's not even close. And Macbeth won 9 events in 2019, which is comparable to this season, I think.
I agree with that. I think if Gannon wins Worlds, I'm willing to have the discussion about 2015, just given what the field is like.
I would have the discussion.
I still don't know if I give it to him, but without
let me
Worlds,
give you the numbers. Let me give you the numbers.
Okay, go ahead.
Paul in 2015, there were 12 majors and Elite Series.
Okay.
He won 8 of them. He won all 5 of the majors.
Okay.
His average finish was 1.42. His worst finish was 3rd. Okay?
Okay.
That's untouchable.
Sure.
To win 67% of the events and never finish off the podium is insane, unheard of. Plus the major sweep.
Right.
So, obviously wins Worlds, wins USDGC. I mean, it's in a class of its own. But this Gannon season will be talked about as it's top 3 all time.
Yes.
I think it's for sure top 3 all time. And so Paul's 2019, he goes 9 wins in 14 tournaments.
Okay.
He goes 2 for 3 at the majors. He wins the Worlds, but he stunk at USDGC. He had that messed up ankle.
Yes.
He finished like 63rd or something. He averaged 6.8, although that's dragged down by that terrible finish at USDGC. And without that, he would have finished average about 2.4. And his worst finish other than USDGC was 10th. So it's pretty comparable to Gannon, especially considering the context of the quality of the field.
Yeah.
And I think, it's really about how you feel about winning Worlds versus this. I think I still probably give the edge to Paul's 2019 because 9 of 14 on wins it's just in a different ballpark than 8 of 23.
Sure. I would be interested in qualifying how many players are over 1,000 rated. If both players were the top rated in the field at the time, what's the delta between them and the second best player, or the field average, or right? Take your pick of what you want to compare it to. How many 1040 guys are there, and just run all those numbers, and maybe we'll do that in the off season and go a little bit further, because Gannon still has Pro Tour Championship, deciding how we evaluate that.
You know what's funny is that this Pro Tour Championship feels completely unimportant from the context of the overall season.
I know, it does.
Like, somebody's going to get a big payday. That's cool. But there's no way that Kristin and Gannon don't win Player of the Year.
It's done. It's wrapped. Yeah. Yep, it's wrapped. Charlie, let me give you a different season comparison. I named this the Juggernaut season. This season is a look at the best of each of the statistics in the post-COVID era. So
isn't that just going to be Gannon?
We exclude Gannon. So this is the best, and honestly, except for wins, every other play, the other stats are by different players. So if you look at the most wins outside of Gannon, Ricky's 2022 season with 5 wins, including the Pro Tour Championship, is the next highest amount of wins. So out of every player, not like Gannon versus the field, in the past
since
4
2020.
years, since 2020, Gannon has more wins than any other player at 8
in this season alone. Yeah,
correct. If you go to majors, he ties Isaac Robinson's 2023 count, going 2 for 4. However, Isaac did have Worlds, which I think both of them would agree is probably the more important of the. Now, what's interesting? It feels like Isaac won 1 and 4, while Gannon won 2 and 3 in terms of importance. Right? So, I hear you that Isaac's got Worlds, but it's kind of funny because he also has the Champions Cup as opposed to EO and USDGC. So take that how you wish, but ties with Isaac. Last season, Calvin Heimberg has the best average finish of any player with 4.05. Compare that again with Gannon's 4.35. So it is edged out just a little bit, but Calvin's worst finish is 16th, whereas Gannon's worst is 13th. Gannon's season this year might very well be better than the best cumulative season you can put together from the field since 2020.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, 3 more wins than the next best season. Mm-hmm. Essentially equivalent in average finish. Better, worst finish. Like, here's what it is. He matched the consistency of Calvin's 2023 with the wins of Paul's greatest seasons.
Yep.
And what more can you say? This is incredible, elite stuff, and people are salty about it. So much salt. I think, I don't know what it is. Do you have a pulse on what you think it is? Like, what? Obviously, Gannon has fans,
right?
But I see more complaining about Gannon dominating than I ever did about Paul or Paige,
sure,
or Kristin for that matter. Kristin, I mean, the adulation of Kristin last year as she's destroying everybody. Majors were unwatchable last year.
Yeah.
But people are so happy that gazillion people lined up for the Grace, and everyone's just like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. And Gannon, people don't want to see Gannon win. Why is he villainous?
3 reasons. Number 1, he's beating people who have a much stronger fan base than him.
Okay.
He does have fans. You're right. But I wouldn't believe if you told me he has more fans than AB, right? AB is just ultra popular. But same thing, long-term Rick and Paul fans. I am not those. There are some very passionate fan bases that are getting beat regularly by Gannon. People don't like that. Number 2, Gannon is a little bit whiny and complains and gets frustrated in rounds when things don't go his way. He takes a long time. When he misses putts, he kind of complains about the baskets and the spit outs. He argues with spectators, right?
Did you see this? Spiderweb got him this weekend.
So anyway, that like Gannon's like presence on the course, I think is not as people don't like quite as much. And like I think other players have gotten knocked for that as well, but this is a cumulative reason, right? But number 3, and this is the one that I really truly believe. What's the average age of a disc golf fan these days, right? It's like what, 30s? Late 30s?
I really don't know, but sure, I'll give you that.
Okay.
Like young millennial.
There is something about, and like I see it with people in their late 30s, 40s, like when you have a teenager like Gannon, there's a level and a sense that, like a feeling like he hasn't earned it, right? Like he needs to have this and I hear this all the time when I'm at like sports bars and when I talk to people about athletes elsewhere in the game. Like when you talk about like I don't know what's a good comp in my head right now. I don't know. I can't even think of one right now. But like the way people talk about the idea of like, oh, the younger athletes need to be grateful. They need to show respect for and gratitude, and they haven't earned their stripes yet. Like and because he's 19, as if like that should disqualify him from getting to be the best in the world because like he doesn't do it the way that some of the older disc golf fans think about it. That's something I hear in all sorts of sports, and even if it's subconscious, I think that's something that might sit poorly with some people who see Anthony Burrell and have seen him play the junior circuit and has been around, and Calvin has been around forever and hasn't gotten the same wins. And it really just felt like Gannon popped up and was like post-COVID and was like, hey guys, I'm better than all of you. And I think that doesn't sit well with some people. And so that's my 3 reasons. There it is.
All right. Let's hit some other storylines real quick. First of all, Nate Doss came on this podcast. He said, I'm trying to make the cash. Well, he did it. He did it. He made the cut and had to clutch up to get there, and then he does cash. Where does he end up finishing? He finishes in 37th place. The cash line was top 54, so comfortably cashes, Josh. Mm-hmm. And I mean, he looked great. Like you could imagine that if he had played more this season, that he could have finished top 25.
I think with a little bit more like intentional practice next season, if he planned on doing this again and just worked on it all year long, I think there's a very good shot Doss, even without touring, Doss could finish top 25 next season.
He basically played at the average for the field.
Yeah.
80 and 33. Well, sorry, this is just the final round. So let me get the stats right here. Doss. He goes 85-38 putting. That's like really damn good.
That's really good.
He clearly doesn't have the power that he needs to have for some of these holes.
Yep.
And that's going to prevent him from having the ceiling to really make a major impact. But, if he cleans up the OB a little bit, he could be like up there. Like a top 10 is not impossible if he decides he wants to commit to playing this tournament in the future and really practicing in front of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Pretty cool.
Really cool. Speaking of another generational talent, Barry Schultz also makes the cut. So got a couple of just legends of the game who are playing great and beat out a lot of really good players who did not make the cut.
It's his first cash since 2019 at USDGC. It's pretty sweet.
That's really sweet. He probably checked the scores before he made his putt on 18.
How about 3 Finns in the top 10? That's never happened before at USDGC. Back 10 years ago, there were 3 Europeans, but one of them was KJ Nybo, who's Danish. And Vino finishes tied for 5th. Una Heinonen finishes tied for 7th alongside Niklas Antila. I don't think that they're quite ready to win at majors yet, but we're seeing that the top MPO European players are like very legit.
Yeah. Look out, man. I'm just waiting first. The problem is with Gannon nowadays, like, I remember last year and 2 years ago, it was like, okay, this is the year. Like, this is the best year. This is the best chance ever for Europeans to win a major on U.S. soil. And even though Nicholas Ontala got a win on U.S. soil this year, at no point was I like, oh yeah, this is their year. Gannon was just, he was just too much, man. It's just too much.
Shout out to Makela and Heinonen. It was also their best major performance of all time. Makela's previous best was 6th. Heinenen's was 13th. Other players to finish their highest ever at a major: Adam Hammes in 9th. Evan Smith in 13th. He's having a hell of a season. Andrew Miranda in 15th. Ty Love in 17th. Eto Tuominen in 17th. Zach Arlinghouse in 23rd. Harper Thompson playing in his first MPO major finishes 29th. And Jaden Rye also in 29th. Also, this was the highest cash prize ever for Gannon Buhr, who took home $30,000 for winning. Nice little weekend. Calvin Heimberg also getting his highest cash ever, $16,000. His previous high was $14,000. And Vinyl Makela takes home $5,000. That was a couple $1,000s better than his highest cash before this.
One additional shout out to Andrew Miranda. This was his first year playing at MPO majors, and he cashed in all 3 that he played in. And had 2 top 25 finishes.
Nicely done.
So, yeah.
Stuff like that can tend to get overlooked, but thank you to Josiah for pulling some of these numbers and posting them in the Ultiworld Disc Golf Discord, the best place to talk disc golf and listen to the Rapid Reacts. Join up with an Ultiworld Disc Golf subscription at discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. Get into the Discord, be there live for the Rapid Reacts, get your own private RSS feed for all the reacts now and in the past, and exclusive articles and more. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we're talking Kristin and Throw Pink. Is it going to become a major? And more. So stay with us. It's the Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Well, the iconic Octothorpe bag is available in a couple of brand new colorways, Bordeaux and Charcoal, live right now on the site as of today. And last week, they dropped a beautiful Charcoal and Brown Bear. So if you'd like a more earth tone bag, check that out. It's all available at PoundDiscGolf.com. If you like a smaller bag, check out the Rufus or the new Vagabond if you're looking for a shoulder bag. They're great. Keep it in your trunk. That's all available at PoundDiscGolf.com. Are you tired of being tired? Are you ready to get 8 hours of unbroken sleep? If you answered yes to either of those questions, today's sponsor may be able to help. Sunset Lake CBD is a hemp farm up in Vermont making CBD products designed to help you get better sleep. Sunset Lake tests every product for potency and purity and puts the results online for all to see. They'll even mail you a copy with your order. That includes all of their nighttime products. Sunset Lake carries gummies, tinctures, and soft gels designed to help you get to sleep gently and naturally. I used the Sunset Lake Sleep Gummies when I was heading out to Australia and back, and a little bit of melatonin in there plus the CBD helped me get to sleep, stay asleep, and get right through the jet lag. No issues, even if I had to rock the sunglasses sometimes on the pod. So check it out. If you're having trouble sleeping through the night, try out the Sunset Lake Sleep Gummies or their other sleep products, and get 20% off all orders. Just go to sunsetlakecbd.com and use code UPSHOT at checkout. Sleep sounds knowing that they stand behind their products. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer-owned, Vermont-grown. Welcome back to the Upshot. Kristin Tattar ends up dominating this tournament in the final round. She wins by 6 shots over Owen Scoggins and 7 over Evelina Salonen, who had led most of the way until the 18th hole of round 3 when Evelina took a double bogey and Kristin ended up taking a 2-shot lead into the final round. Josh, when the Great Blue Heron appeared as the spirit animal for Kristin on hole 5, after Kristin threw a magnificent approach shot for a birdie, it was clear that we're getting the best of Kristin once again. The signs were all there. The approach shot was dialed. The putting looked great. The Heron was with us, and it was basically over at that point after hole 5.
Listen, I just want to say a big thanks to Mother Nature for not sending a wolf as the sign. I think that might have caused a little bit more drama. So we accept the Heron. I know it's not Kristin's logo and animal and all that, but we accept the Heron as the sign. Is there a Heron disc yet? Because opportunity for latitude. The Heron would be a good name for a disc. It would be a good name.
I don't think that's a disc, right?
Not that I know of.
Not that I know of.
And make that let Kristin design it and.
Oh my gosh, print some money.
Print some money. There's enough wolf
send
stamp
small
Kristin
royalties
discs.
to the Upshot. Give me a Heron for the wall at least.
For the wall. He'll even put it in a spot where you can see it. It was top to bottom. I mean, Kristin looked so good, and it really started out like strong, but then round 3 into round 4 just flipped a switch, and it got hard to watch. But by the time the Heron showed up, I was ready to be done. I was like, okay, well that's it. This is the tournament. That was fun.
I mean, I was talking about it on the broadcast. Starting in round 3, hole 8, she birdied 5 in a row, and then 3 more birdies the rest of the round. So 8 birdies in the last 11 holes of that round. And then she opens up round 4 with 8 birdies in the first 11 holes of that round. So 22 holes, 16 birdies, 0 bogeys. Goodbye, everybody. I am Kristin. I am number 1, and you have no chance to beat me. And I don't think it really would have mattered what Evelina and Owen did. They're not matching that.
Right. I agree. It's one of those when Kristin plays at her best. It almost feels like nobody in the world can catch her, and that's kind of what it felt like in those last couple rounds.
It's interesting. Kristin started off the year really strong. Right, she gets 3 wins in the first couple months of the season. She opens up with the win at Waco and wins Jonesboro and Music City. And in that stretch, she shoots over 1,000 rated events 5 of 6 times. Then, just a so-so performance at Champions Cup, kind of disappointing to be close and not win by her standards. Mm-hmm. And that kicked off a stretch of play where she did not shoot over 1,000 for many months. From the end of April to all the way through August, she never averaged over 1,000 at the tournament, and that's why we're talking about she's a member of the committee this season. Mm-hmm. But then since then, GMC MVP, and here at Throw Pink, she averaged over 1,000 3 straight tournaments in a row. She wins 2 of them.
Should have won 3.
Credit to Missy Gannon, who played fantastic at MVP and beat a solid Kristin.
Yeah.
But Kristin has looked a little bit more back and certainly locked in down the stretch here at Throw Pink to win this tournament for the first time. The only tournament that she's played a bunch and hasn't won on tour is now MVP.
Yep. She's got to be coming for that one next year, that's for sure. Speaking of her season, feeling a little bit off, let's compare real fast this year to last year. Obviously last year, just unreal, but let's see how they kind of stack up. She played 14 events in both seasons. This year she had 6 wins. Last year she had 9 wins. So just in the wins category. Well, Charlie, let me tell you, where do those other 3 win differences come in? Well, she won the other 3 majors last year. She went 4 for 4 with the career sweep. Only went 1 for 4 at the majors this year. Does lock in Throw Pink. So I think that 6 wins might not include Throw Pink. Statmanda was a little bit goofy in their updating today.
I can check real quick.
Yeah.
2024 wins. Throw Pink's not on the list yet, so it should be 7 wins.
So 7 wins. Okay. So 7 wins. Is able to get the Throw Pink, misses out on majors. In terms of average, then you had about 2.5 this year for Kristin, and last year was 2nd place. And so, a little bit better. 8th place worst
averaging 2nd is so insane.
That's crazy. It's crazy. Still not as good as Paul's 2015 season of 1.42.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
And then that leads to the question as well a little bit. Where's Thoreau Pink? How do you evaluate that and its importance in Kristin's seasons? But it's clear this season has not been quite as sharp as for 2024 season or 2023 season. Excuse me. We can run this against Paige's 2019 season. That's where she had 19 events with 9 wins. Excuse me. She went 2 for 3 at the majors with an average finish of 2.05 and a worst place finish of 7th. And so, that season is very, very good. But Kristin's 2023 season is better.
Yeah, it's very comparable to Kristin 2023, but Kristin won more in fewer tries, swept the majors.
Yeah.
I think slightly better average finish, slightly better worst finish. I think clearly sweeping the majors is like a cut above.
It is. It is.
I think Paige's 2019 is still better than this Kristin season.
I think that's probably true.
But this is probably right there with greatest seasons ever. Now, we could go back in the day and talk about Juliana when she basically won every single tournament, but that's so long ago, and like there wasn't even a national tour at that point.
Right.
So like, what are we really talking about? We can't really compare the seasons directly. But tough. I would listen to you if you wanted to tell me that Juliana's, I think it was 2001 season was the greatest ever. I would listen.
Yep.
But, plumbers and farmers, so. Is there a women's sports equivalent of plumbers and farmers?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure there are female plumbers. I've just never met one.
Sure. I don't either. now you say that. Well, Charlie, we've obviously seen Kristin fall back a little bit, and that's given opportunities to other players around her. Evelina, couple wins, including 2 majors this season. Holland gets some wins. Owen has great season again. So I want to ask you then the same question, or one of the same questions that I asked you about MPO. Owen second, Evelina third, Holland fourth. Who of those 3 do you think we should be the most concerned about after seeing the events this weekend? Evelina has what is kind of an Evelina style blow up that we've seen earlier this season. Holland has starts way too far back to matter and then plays well enough to look like a good finish. Owen has the most missed putts of the season from Circle 1. She misses 15 at this tournament, which is just completely off of what we're used to seeing from her. So I think all 3 give us something to be worried about. Who are you most concerned about for the future moving forward?
I don't have a good answer for you. I don't really think, okay, let me put it this way.
Okay.
Owen missing more Circle 1 putts than she has all season is not reflective of what I expect from Owen next season.
Right.
Now, if Owen was struggling a lot tee to green, or we're starting to see the distance atrophy, but then I might say, well, father time. But I'm not seeing that. Like, yep. Owen outplayed Kristin tee to green this weekend. I thought she threw. Obviously, she doesn't have she does have a distance deficit. That's obvious, but she takes advantage of her opportunities, and this course is not that demanding from a distance perspective.
No.
And she is able. I feel like she's throwing further now than she was 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm not really that worried about that. I mean, Holland, sure, she had a bad opening round, but I know what Holland is capable of.
Sure.
And then Evelina, in some ways, I feel like Evelina got some bad breaks this weekend.
Okay.
How about this? She actually went 11 for 11 from Circle 1 in the final round. Putting wasn't the problem in the final round. She just wasn't putting it close enough. And she had done that earlier in the weekend. Now, it does feel like a lot of the time, Evelina is unable to kind of rise to the challenge of Kristin specifically.
Right.
Now, she did beat Kristin in a fairly close race at Champions Cup. And I think that, is probably Kristin's greatest area of weakness, which is just carving lines in the woods on dense woods courses. Not that she's bad at it. She's just not elite in the way that she is in a lot of other styles of play. So I want to see Evelina go head to head and win against Kristin, and we have not seen that. I mean, it was unquestionably Evelina's worst round in the final round from a throwing perspective. I don't even need to look at the stats to tell you that. It was clear. I mean, earlier in the tournament, she was like almost every hole she had a birdie look.
Yep.
So, you know, am I worried about that moving forward? I think that here's the tricky bit. The things that were the problems for the players were completely the opposite of what we usually see from them, right?
So true.
Holland didn't blow up on the final round. She blew up in the beginning.
Yeah.
Evelina didn't blow it on the putting green. She blew it throwing.
Green.
And Owen blew it on the green. So I don't know. You tell me. Like it just mostly felt like Kristin locked in with 27 holes to play, and nobody else did. Owen could have won this tournament if she putted to her averages.
Owen could have. Yes. You know, I think what's most concerning about for me is that this is another tournament where Evelina has the lead. And remember, we talked about European Open. Oh, there's no way. There's no way Evelina blows this lead. And especially after how good she looked early in the tournament. I think that's what's disappointing. And the most concerning thing to me about Evelina is that it's not just Evelina has bad tournaments, right? Because for the most part, and maybe this isn't quite as fair, but for the most part these days, it feels like AB either has a great tournament or he has a bad tournament. I think this weekend being kind of the exception to how he was the rest of the season, because he won some pressure tournaments this year. And so it really felt like Anthony Barella was either on or he was off for the weekend. Evelina still, to me, feels like you can get Jekyll or Hyde in every single round. And that to me is what is like the most, it's not, she is so influenced by the way her round starts or the way her round finishes the day before. And that carries over, and I think is still a little bit of a limitation. I was hoping that she was getting over it. It's still not quite there yet. And so given, like, I think, like you said about the other two, of like, I don't know if they're as predictive. I'm looking forward to the day that I can go an entire season, and maybe we'll never get that. But I want to see Evelina not, and man, she did it at Copenhagen. I thought that maybe this was the year, and they still, the demons are still there a little bit. And so I think Evelina's demons are the worst of these three, and so she's the one I'm going to say I'm most concerned about.
And that's fair. I mean, look, the putting still has to get better. I mean,
it does.
If the putting gets better, she's going to be a dominant force.
Yes.
But, despite the decent showing in the final round, that's largely because her circle one putts were coming from 15 feet. And when she's putting from 25 to 30 feet, she's just not routinely making those putts.
Yeah.
I want to see those putts start to drop at an 80% clip, and then I'll be ready to say, okay, Evelina's like championship material week in and week out. But right now, it's just not. Yeah. She's fortunate to have won Worlds, to be honest. It's a terrible putting performance, and it still was enough.
Yeah.
But it's because she was throwing it fantastic.
She was.
And,
she was. And Ivy Hill set up for that very nicely. Maybe
had a chance if she threw it that great again, as she had earlier in the tournament in the final round, but I think Kristin was just too good for anybody to beat her this week. Yeah. But, who knows what happens if Evelina doesn't get two kind of brutal rollaways on 18 in the final of round 3.
Sure.
So I want to play this audio for you. I was going to try to play the clip for the YouTube folks, but I can't screen record DGN. So I have no way to get the video.
Charlie, you should have just recorded it with your phone and then uploaded that video.
I could do that, and it would just be super jank, but it's fine. The thing that matters is the audio. This is an interview between Nate Perkins and the PDGA Executive Director, Doug Bjerkes. Nate is asking about Throw Pink becoming a major. Let's listen.
And I asked Hayden this earlier in the week, but is this tournament ever considered for a major? I know we have U.S. Women's, but would the PDGA ever consider, adding this?
Absolutely. In fact, it is a conversation that has been going on really for the last 6 months. And there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of history. There's no guarantee that it will be, but we're definitely looking at a variety of different scenarios where this event, which looks like a major, feels like a major and has a field like a major could potentially be one in the near future.
Josh, it's happening.
It's happening. It's happening.
Yeah, you don't come out in an interview and say that unless it's happening. I think it will be a major next year. The question really is, will it supplant U.S. women's, or will they add it as a fifth major?
Agreed.
I really don't care.
I don't
if I'm
either.
being honest. They could do either thing, and I would be okay with it.
Yeah. They need to make some commitments to U.S. women's in terms of like scheduling and course quality if they're going to keep it. But so long as they do that, I agree. I don't care. My bigger priority is that this gets made a major. Charlie, real fast side note. You know who Doug Bjerkes sounds just like, and I never would have realized this until recently?
Who's that?
He sounds just like Tim Walz. Go listen to a Walz interview, and then listen to this clip again.
In fact, it is a conversation that has been going on really for the last 6 months, and there's a lot of moving pieces.
He's just got that Midwestern folksiness, right?
He does. It's great. Very refreshing interview. Like, thank you for just like saying it so we don't have to keep yelling at the PDGA to fix this.
I am so happy because Nate even mentioned it. He asked Hayden Henry, who works at the PDGA in their media department, the same question, and he completely dodged the question and whatever. Which, fair enough, right? He doesn't necessarily have the latitude to come out and say that it's being. But I'm thankful to hear somebody from the PDGA just come out and give an open and honest answer. We've been talking about it. I understand why people would want it. It's not a guarantee because it probably has to go through the board of directors. Sure. But we're looking, and to me, I think that's a sign of clear confidence that is going to happen, as it should. What is the problem? There is literally no reason not to do it. And we can stop having all these idiotic graphics that say major-esque field, major like everything else. And I'm not blaming Mahmoud or DGN. That's how else can we talk about this tournament? It's awkward.
Yep.
We have to acknowledge that it is both like an extremely high level field with a big purse and like a lot of importance, but it's not being treated that way by the PDGA. It's literally the PDGA that has to fix the problem.
Yep.
We can talk about it like a major, but in the record books, it's awkward if you don't make it a major.
Here's the other thing, and you mentioned a little bit, and I get working with a board of directors and some of the considerations have to be taken into place when you're doing that, but the PDGA has two very separate arms, and I don't think we as a sport talk about it quite enough, right? You have the executive side, the administrative, the professional side that are hired, paid salary, that your dues pay for in order to run this organization. And then you have the board of directors who have to vote, who are an elected body, who then have to vote on a lot of these major decisions. I think if the executive side is like responding to the needs and requests of the base and is trying to make changes, they need to telegraph that and they need to broadcast that. Because number one, I think people are dissatisfied, especially, Throw Pink is the perfect example. How many years have we just been so frustrated about Throw Pink not being considered a major for FPO the same way it has been for FPO or MPO? Like, if that is something in the works, they need to have been talking about that and talking about the progress they're making, because it's clear where the rest of the base is on this. And the second thing that's important then is, I think what that does is it says to the board of directors, like, if the board of directors are going to choose not to approve this, they have to do so publicly. It has to be very clear, like, you know what? And I'm not saying, I get that there has to be a good working relationship between the two, but if the board of directors ever, and I'm not saying that they did put a kibosh on this, I'm saying that oftentimes I don't think we know where it goes. And I would rather have more public decisions in terms of being able then to make a vote for the board of directors that's more impactful by being informed about these things. That requires more communication from the PDGA. I appreciate this from Doug. I think this is such a big step forward in our sport, and I really appreciate that he's talking about this.
Yeah, agreed. Anyway, it was entertaining to watch Kristin really lock in.
It was.
And just, put it all together for not the whole tournament, really. She was fine earlier in the event, but the final 27 holes was something special. So great to see. And, there are a lot of players who I think are going to come away feeling like they could have done more. You mentioned already a couple of them who finished at the top, but how about Paige Pierce, who shot tying the course record 11 under in the final round to finish 11 down and in 5th place? If she shot even par in the opening round, she would have been at 21 down and 1 shot back of Kristin. She just had a horrible start in the wind. So, I am seeing green shoots, though, from Paige, which is encouraging.
Just in time for OTB Champions Cup, baby. Stockton Major for Paige.
By the way, I think at some point somebody emailed and was like, why do you guys keep talking about OTB like Paige won this year? Because Paige did not win OTB this year, which is true. She has won OTB though. In the past. She won Portland.
Yes.
And just, I do think it has been confusing at times. But I agree with you that Paige will be a major contender at West Coast Champions Cup.
Hey, and guess what? Charlie, you know where Worlds is going to be in 2026? It's not unofficial, but we know that Portland's submitting a bid.
Unofficial.
Watch out. Paige gets another Worlds.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing Doug said is that they're about to announce the 2026 and 2027 major locations.
Oh.
So shout out to the PDGA.
Yeah.
Having this all planned out this far in advance is great.
Go Doug.
Go Doug. All right. That is going to do it for today's show. Oh, let's take a quick look at our picks. How'd we do?
Oh, okay.
We got to do Pursewatch too.
Okay. So, gotta say real fast, can we get Go Doug shirts or buttons? I think that's something that we need here on the pod. All right, where are our picks?
All right, picks. We both had Gannon Buhr on our podium. We both get a point. You had Macbeth winning, Isaac Robinson in second, not quite. I had Nicholas Ontel in third, Ricky Wysocki to win, also not quite. So we each get a point in MPO.
Don't you get a point for Rick?
Wasn't he fourth?
Was he fourth? Yeah, you're right. Yep.
Yeah. Tough. I had Evelina and Kristin on my podium. Holland not quite getting it done. You had Kristin, and so you only get 1 point for that. You had Missy Gannon winning. I had Evelina winning. So I get 2 points. You get 1. And
should have gone chalk.
Pretty much a wrap. in the picks department.
Pro Tour Championship is worth 10 times.
100x.
And we are not allowed to pick the same people, and the person who's behind gets to pick first. I pick Kristin and Gannon. Okay, carry on.
All right, Pursewatch. Let's go. Josh, give it to us.
Yeah, USDGC, $132,172 with a increase from added cash of $84,125. 122 participants, which comes out to $1,083 per player. That is by far.
Is that the highest of the season?
Highest of the season, beats out MVP Open by $70, more than $70 a player. Gannon wins a cool 30 grand from that. Big payout from USDGC. Charlie, you taking throw pink then?
Yeah, I got you. It's 54,309 total payout. Just 51 participants, less than half of USDGC. So it comes out to $1,065 a player, just a little bit under USDGC. But for the women, the second highest of the year, or the highest of the year, I should say. 13,000 to Kristin for winning. I will note they pay out more to the bottom players at throw pink than they do in MPO for USDGC. The bottom payouts for throw pink, the last cash got $1,000, and an MPO, I think the last cash got like 400 or something like that.
I think that's
550.
Right. Yeah,
550. So that maybe explains some of the differential between the 30K payout for Gannon and the 13K payout for Kristin. So just noting that. The purse was up 12.3% this year over 2023. And USDGC's purse was up almost 6%, which, those are good numbers in the context of this season.
Well, and let me give you one more number, Charlie. Winthrop comes in as the second highest if you combine the events at a payout total of $186,000. If you've been doing the math game track, that should be obvious from the amount per player. What's really impressive though, at that $186,000. So Worlds is the only one that was higher. They were at $285,000. Worlds had 124 players more than the Winthrop players, and that makes, I think, just the world of difference when you think about payouts and everything, and it's why this was able to come out so far ahead. Honestly,
you have to adjust. That's why we do the money per person, because
correct.
If you double the field size, you have a lot more money in your purse straight away.
Right. Spectacular payouts in this season, especially. Innova and the PDGA and the Winthrop team deserve just miles and miles of credit.
Yeah. Overall, a 7.6% increase in purse.
Big job.
Which is better than a lot of tournaments this year.
Yeah. And hard to do it when you're already that high.
So obviously, we are going to see the best numbers of the year this coming weekend at the Pro Tour Championship. $300,000 purse announced. That is down from 2023. We will talk about that more tomorrow in our preview show. Since the tournament starts on Thursday, our preview show is coming out on Wednesday. So we will be back with you tomorrow to get you ready for the Pro Tour Championship. We're also going to be talking to USDGC champ 2X now, Gannon Buhr. So join us tomorrow. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you tomorrow right here on The Upshot.